Hello, I've been asked to explain the X-Wing hint in Starstruck, and I'm told it's the very first thing that you're told if you hit the hint button. All right, let's actually adjust this a little bit. All right, so if we hit hint, I can't really read it, but it's giving us this X-Wing hint here. No, it's not. Okay, so the first hint is actually that this is X'd out. Let's get to the X-Wing hint. This is X'd out. Let's do this one and this one as well. All right, here's our X-Wing hint. So I don't have to read it to explain it, but I'll keep this up. So it's different than an X-Wing in Sudoku. It's a somewhat similar concept, but I would have named it something else. But anyway, this is the way to think about it. We're kind of combining the edit. So if you think about the typical strategy of being like, these top three rows completely cover three regions. Therefore, those three regions get the 3 stars for those rows. So if you're not in those three regions, then you can't have a star in those 3 rows. But we're combining that by doing rows and columns at the same time. We get a bunch of deductions. So here is how to think about it. Row 1 here, the top row, has 1 star. The bottom row has 1 star. The leftmost column has 1 star. And the rightmost column has 1 star. Now, we could have stars in the corners, but that would only reduce how many total stars we have. The maximum number of stars that we can put in these highlighted cells is 4. One that's given by row 1, the top row, one that's given by the bottom row, one that's given by the leftmost row, and one that's given by the rightmost row. 4 stars total. Now, if we highlight row 1, those 2 rows and those 2 columns, if we highlight them, then you can see it totally covers blue, orange, green, and brown. Completely covers them. And so, as a result, we know that we need 4 stars for those 4 regions. Blue, this blue region needs, I call it blue or purple, it doesn't matter. This blue-purple region needs a star. The orange needs a star. The green needs a star. And the brown needs a star. And so they have to come from the top row, the bottom row, the left column, and the right column. We don't have a choice. So we need to maximize the stars coming from those rows and columns, and they have to be given to those 4 regions. So there's 2 conclusions. One is, if you're not brown, green, orange, or purple, you can't get a border star. So we're Xing out all these yellows, we're Xing out all these lighter blues, we're Xing out these reds, we're Xing out these browns, or the grays and the yellow. But in addition to that, we can't take the corners. Because as soon as I take a corner, now that's the star for both that row and that column. And now we don't get to get 4 stars. We only get to get 3 stars max. Right? If you think about it, if you did a star in this corner and this corner, there'd only be 2 stars in total in those rows and columns. And we need to max out at 4. We need to completely max it out. So we're not allowed to take the corners either. So we can actually X out anything that's not these, turnarounds. And we can X out the corners. And that's kind of our first step to the puzzle. I may as well finish the puzzle since we're here. This sees all of this light blue. Let's see, what else could we say? I haven't taken a good look at this puzzle yet, so let's do that. Let's be careful here. So what can we learn? So these blues, we learned this. These reds, we learned this. Can't be in. Getting 1 out of this purple doesn't seem super helpful, but we'll see. We don't have another X-Wing, do we? Probably not. So we have an almost X-Wing here, right? This turns the corner. This turns the corner. This doesn't, but this turns the corner. So if we could disprove these 2 cells, we'd actually have another X-Wing, which would be pretty neat. Between row 2, column 2, this one and this one, between these rows and columns, those 4, we need at least 3 stars. But we actually, in yellow, red, and light blue. But we already X'd out all these corners. So maybe it's something that's done a little bit later if I can disprove these 2. Or maybe there is a star in these 2 because maybe there's something wrong with having this other X-Wing. That would be kind of neat as well. If the X-wing were true, then we would X out these. Oops, did not mean to do that. We would X out these two. We would X out these two. We'd X out these two. These two, this brown and this brown. This green and this green. This orange. These two purples. I'm not sure that that like breaks anything. Okay, let's see if we can find anything else going on here. So there's kind of another conclusion we can make, which is there's only two situations that can happen here. We can either go clockwise or counterclockwise with our stars, right? If the star were in one of these two here, then the star is in one of these two, one of these two, and one of these two. The only other option is the stars in one of these two, in which case we go this way. They're here and here and here. So the point is, we're not going to have a star in these two and a star in these two. That's never going to happen. So between these two rows, we get exactly one star in these four cells, and we get one more star in all of this. And so a conclusion we can make, actually, we can make a few conclusions from that. Can I highlight these three and get the same result? Or yeah, we can kind of do that. So I'm actually going to pull out my little pen tool. I haven't done that in these tutorials yet, but I think it's going to be helpful. I'll just use red. It's fine. So I'm talking about these three columns here. I'm going to draw in red. So my point is that we're going to have in this section here plus this section here, this sort of red, we're going to have one star. Exactly one star is going to be there. And then in the blue and in this red, we're going to have one star in the blue and one star in the red. Well, guess what? We've just counted 3 stars. So if you're not in any of these cells I just crossed out, then you can't have a star because we're going to have exactly one in these two and exactly one in the blue and exactly one in the red. And so these cannot be stars. Now I wonder if we can do the same thing in the top 3 rows. No, because gray again is just kind of messing everything up. Let me trash the let me erase the sorry, it's a trash icon, but let me erase my markings there. So we know there's going to be one in one of these two, which is interesting. Yeah, gray again, just messing everything up. Can't do the top 3, or actually it would be these 3 for gray. We know that we only get one more star. So if I were to outline this again, in fact, I can just use a line instead of freehanding it. I'm talking about these 3 rows here. We're going to get exactly one within the brown and green, exactly one, no more, no less. And we're going to get exactly one in the yellow. So we only have one more star for all of this. Right, so there's kind of a corollary that's a lot easier to see, which is actually these 2 rows here. This is a fun one. But take a look at these 2 rows here. Notice that there's only 2 regions. So that we need 2 stars, right? 2 rows need 2 stars. There's only 2 regions, the orange region and the purple region. And so that means orange has to give a star to these 2 rows and purple has to give a star to these 2 rows. So if you're outside of those 2 rows, you don't get a star. Let's see. So that does mean that in these 3 rows, yeah, it means that we do have one in gray. I guess we kind of already knew that. Maybe I wasn't looking at that right. Because we could have just X'd them out through that other logic as well. All right. I don't know why I didn't see that earlier, but gray is only in these 3 rows. So maybe I didn't highlight the correct 3 rows, or maybe I didn't look at it closely enough, but it doesn't matter. So maybe there's something going on with columns as well, because we can do the same thing with columns. So for example, I don't know if these 3 are going to do anything, but we can take a look. We know that these browns and these blues have exactly 1 star. So that uses up one of our stars. We also know that this blue has exactly 1 star. And so now gray or orange is going to give the other star, meaning the third star. Sorry, the no. See, look at these two cells here that are outside of this region. That's going to be a fourth star, right? Because I can't put a star within this region in both gray and orange because I'm using up blue. I'm using one for the brown and purple, and I'm using one for this light blue. And so that's two out of the three that I get. And so one of them's going to be in gray or one of them's going to be in orange, but then that means either the one that doesn't get it from these three needs to be here or here. And so as a result, we can X out the rest of this column. There's just one purple, but it's something. We know there's one in one of these two is the point. All right. So let's see about the other side then. Let's look at these. Oops, I did not mean to do that one. I meant to do this one. All right. I guess another way to have put that is I could have done four instead of three across. With four across, it encompasses all of gray and orange. That would have been a little bit easier to describe. All right, so again, we know that there's going to be exactly one here in the green and orange, exactly one in those four cells. There's going to be exactly one in these four cells in red, and there's going to be exactly one in yellow. So that means that we can't put any in these purples. Okay, so we're down to three cells in purple. So these three in purple do see this cell here. And remember, this column now needs a star. So we can actually place our first star in gray, if you believe it. Now these two yellows both touch this one. Now that used up these two, remember? So now we know exactly how this is working. So we have to go around. We can't put them in these two because there's a star up here. That means there's a star here. There's a star in one of these two, so not here. Now, there is a star in one of these two, so that's not in. A star in one of these two, so that's not in. Okay. Yellow has only one place to put a star. That puts a star in green here. That puts a star in red. Puts a star in orange. Puts a star in this light blue. Puts a star in purple. And a star in red. And a star in purple. All right. I don't know. That's definitely purple. I don't... Is that a dark blue, maybe? I keep changing the name of that color. That was a really neat puzzle. I enjoyed that. And I hope that helps you understand kind of the logic that you can use to make progress in this without just guessing. Cool. Well, that was a really neatly crafted puzzle as well. I really enjoyed that. How'd you do?